Hello, my gorgeous ones. Welcome to Alicia Budget Beauty. My name is Alicia. Here on my channel, I love all things affordable fashion and beauty. I do hauls, tutorials, reviews, palette videos, all sorts of fun stuff. So if that sounds good to you, please subscribe, stick around, be a friend. All right, you guys, why do I look like a little leprechaun? Or actually, I kind of feel like I look like a neon Girl Scout right now. Well, I thought it would be fun to share 15 green leaning palettes in celebration of St. Patrick's Day coming up. So if you love green eyeshadow, this video will definitely be for you. Or maybe if you're looking to get into, wearing some greens, this video will be for you. Or maybe you're just bored and for some reason you like to hear me speak. So if that sounds interesting to you, keep on watching. Let's go. All right, first up, I gotta share what's on my eyes today. I have this beautiful bright green look going on, and it is the Nomad Cosmetics Monteverde The Cloud Forest palette. Now, my criteria for these palettes, obviously green. I try to keep them like very green dominant, and some of them might have a mixture like this one. So here we have a very colorful, bright palette. I thought about also including rainbow palettes because sometimes with St. Patrick's Day, we think the rainbow and the gold and the green, but I may just do a separate video sometime of, rainbow palettes or colorful palettes. So I only wanted to really do palettes that I love the greens in them. So this one definitely has a variety in here, but I'm just focused on the greens. Today, I'm actually wearing this Vine Snake and the Glass Wings, the Wildlife Wonderland, and then the Hanging Bridges in the inner corner. Oh, one more, and the Green Mountain shade. So I think this palette is really, really fun. I know some people were like, oh, I don't really know what to do with that palette. It was like almost just too colorful for them. But if you're a green lover and you don't mind other colors as well, this one was really, really fun. If you do have it, you might consider using it for St. Patrick's Day. All right, next up we have my Birthstone, the Peridot palette from BH Cosmetics. And again, this one does have a few other shades in here, but I think it's so pretty and I honestly need to use this again here pretty soon. I loved this series that BH did. I thought this was really, really excellent quality. It does have this pressed glitter in here, which was kind of unusual for BH. Like they didn't do a lot of pressed glitters, but I think that there can be a time and place for them. And I think like sometimes you don't even know. Sometimes they just look like a gorgeous shimmer on the eye. So, and the sparkles, I think of like green sparkly for St. Patrick's Day. So I think this one would be really cute. You could honestly also use these as blushes, I think, to do your whole look. Like today, I have a similar color in here. It goes really well with these tones of green. All right, next up we have the Wealthy Chic palette from Colored Rain. I love Colored Rain's formula so much. I talk about them often. A lot of times they are in my monthly rankings because I do just really, really enjoy both the mattes and the shimmers. I had this whole collection of all these little 6 pans. Great, great, great quality. These green tones are really beautiful. I did a look not too long ago with this and I combined it with another palette. I can't remember which one that it was, but it was such a pretty look. So this one would definitely work. I also have the Tinkerbell palette from ColourPop. I don't have a lot of ColourPop palettes anymore. I've been decluttering most of them. This one I've kept because I do really like this color story a lot. I think it's so pretty. So this is like a little bit more toned down greens. So if like the neon greens, like the bold greens don't really do it for you, these are like those cooler tone greens that you could pull out if you're not like a bright girl. Next up, I have the Unique Beauty Girl Boss palette. This is probably the most like quintessential St. Patrick's Day palette since it's all green. You do have these gorgeous shimmers in here that really, really stand out. These mattes in here, you guys, are pigmented. Very, very, very pigmented. I've talked about this brand often as well. UK brand. Really, really enjoy the formula. I think I definitely need to pull this one out the week of St. Patrick's Day. Next up, we have a Buxom Cosmetics. It's all in the name, Emeralds. That's the name of the palette. So this is a predominantly green palette, but you do also kind of have these like earthy tones in as well. And actually, spoiler alert, I do plan on doing an earthy palettes video whenever it gets closer to Earth Day, which is in April. And you might see some of these repeat. I tried to not bring in some that I'm like, I really consider this just an earthy palette, not necessarily a St. Patrick's palette, but there are some crossover in here to that video, I think, like this one. This is an earthy palette to me, but I did want to include it because I just think the greens are really yummy in this. Okay, next we have the Yucca palette from Naturativ. So this is another one that could fit into that earthy tones category as well. Don't worry, that video will not be completely repetitive. You will see other palettes in that video that aren't in this one, but this is one that it'll show up in there because this is, I consider this very, very earthy. And the greens in here though, I think are another example if the tones, you know, if the bright, the bold does not do it for you and you still want to do a St. Patrick's Day look and you have this palette, you could do some of those more toned down, murky, kind of swampy greens instead. Next, we have another BH Cosmetics palette, the Absinthe palette. Now this one is another, like, obviously perfect for St. Patrick's Day. All green, monochromatic. There's a lot of different tones in here though. Some of these are more blue leaning. So maybe you're someone that certain greens aren't flattering on you and you like a little bit more like a blue tone to your greens, then this one would be perfect. Now I have often pulled out this palette and given it pretty big praise for a very inexpensive palette and a chic glam palette. It is the Virtuous Virgo palette. And I really, really like the quality of this palette. I've decluttered pretty much all of my, or I think I have, all of my She Glam except this series of like the Zodiac. They were all really, really good. So I still have those. This green one though, I think is my favorite out of all of them that I have because the tones I really, really like, those swampy greens. And this is another one that has a pressed glitter that is so pretty on the eyes. So it really, really stands out and gives such a bright sparkle. So very different in tone from the other one, but I like to pull this one out whenever I'm just like feeling a green, like maybe kind of like an earthy green tones, like olive type, then I'll pull this one out. Next we have an Odin's Eye palette, the Erd palette, and I kind of feel like pulling this out because I have not dipped into this palette. I have my palettes organized by brand. This one happened to be at the very back of my Odin's Eye and I realized, oh my gosh, girl, you have never used this palette. So I think I definitely need to put that in like the stash of palettes to use this week. And I debated, I'm like, well, this is pretty much green, but then you do have this middle like duo here that's not, and then this brownish color. But again, you do have like kind of like a varied tone of greens in here. This one's more minty. This one's more of that swampy shade. And then you have more of an emerald. I say I haven't used it, but maybe I did use this shimmer because it's definitely been dipped into. So maybe at some point I used that as like a one and done. And I think I'm gonna put that in my stash this week. So if you watch my palette roundups, the next month that reviews all the palettes from the month before and ranks them, this one will probably be in that roundup. Next we have the Dirty Martini from Glamlight. And this is a palette I really need to use more as well. I think I've only used it once. Shame on me because I've definitely owned it way too long to have only used it one time. Again, you have a lot of different tones of green in here. None that are like ultra saturated. This is kind of like one of those muted tones type of green palettes with a couple of other pops in here, but I think you could get some really pretty looks out of this. Okay, another palette that is not predominantly green, but has really pretty greens in it is the Wilderness palette from Beauty Bay. So I wanted to include this even though you've got blues and the reds in here, because if you do own this palette, you might have kind of forgotten about it. One, because it's been out for a couple years now, and two, you might have forgotten like, oh yeah, there's some really yummy greens in there. So I've really grown to love the Beauty Bay formula. And I really like it in this palette as well. So don't forget about this one. Okay, we have another one that has a bunch of other colors in it, but it is the Olivia palette from JC Cosmetics. And I just love this color story so much. I think the tones in here are beautiful. Just ignore for now all these like warm kind of neutrals in here and just focus on these greens. I really like this formula a lot of JC Cosmetics. I only have 2 palettes. They put out one that was an all like duo multi-chrome palette that I thought if that ever goes on sale, like half off, I'm gonna get it. It was way too expensive for me to drop, but I really do like their formula. I don't hear them get spoken about very much, but they are a really solid brand. Next up, we have the Olive Earth palette from Delancey. So this is a palette I got this year and I did some content with it and I did do looks on YouTube and I fell in love with this palette. Now, their other stuff does not look that good to me, but this palette alone was so good. And I love, love, love the greens in here. I also really love the other couple of random shades in here, but the greens are so yummy. I love the tones, I love the quality, and it was also very affordable. I also love this outside packaging. So this could definitely be a good St. Patrick's Day contender. And my very last one, which is maybe one of my favorite ones, is the Arrow Inspired palette from Adept. And this is definitely, I think, such a fun idea for St. Patrick's Day because yes, like it's so shifty that the multi-chromes, you're gonna have other shades that are not green or that shift green to another color. But I think that's so fun because it kind of brings in that rainbow vibe that you can achieve or that you're looking for sometimes with St. Patrick's Day, but then you've also got your green mattes in here. This quality is amazing. It's one of my favorite palettes. I think it's just phenomenal. I think this one would be super, super, super fun to wear. So that is it, you guys. Those are 15 green leaning, green lovers palettes. Obviously, you don't have to wear these for just St. Patrick's Day. You can get them out anytime. I just thought it'd be fun to share with you guys. Let me know what your favorite green palettes are in the comments. And as always, have fun shopping, budget shopping. Bye.